Welcome, guys. I said before that I wanted to get some people on and to interview them and hear their thoughts and their experiences on strength and conditioning, coaching, and learn a little bit more. What better place to start than with the man himself, BrettdaBeast.
Hello.
The owner of this fine establishment. So thank you very much for coming on, Brett.
Welcome, mate.
So just to start off, just fill those people who don't know in with kind of what your experiences are, where you've come from, what brought you to this point.
Right, started off in Melbourne, Australia, and then I got a scholarship to Japan as an exercise physiologist or personal trainer at the time. I still hadn't completed my exercise science degree back then, so I was in Japan for about 5 years and decided to go back to complete the degree. I was always into exercise science as I was a kid due to sports and stuff like that. So from there, I loved traveling. I finished the degree and went to China, went to Russia, lived in Hong Kong, and then kind of settled in Thailand actually for the last 20-something years. During Thailand, I was with the Thailand national team, so weightlifting, basketball, boxing, badminton tour with them as well. So that kind of work was phenomenal, but I decided that in terms of financial gain, it was a better, more prudent decision to do a private studio, which we also get some athletes, not as many as we had before, but yeah, private training was the way to go, and no group, just private.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so something that always interests me is with your range of experience, almost, how does it differ from working with programming for high performance athletes compared to your almost your average everyday person?
I think it's accountability, right? So I like to categorize sports science arena, and then you have commercial arena.
Okay.
Commercial is kind of it's not accountable to the programmings that you give. Maybe occasionally you might have someone question what you're doing and then look into it. But generally speaking, when you're with athletes at the national level, strength and conditioning with the elite sports teams, you have a team full of doctors, physiotherapists, nutritionists, and if you're doing a program, it's going to be scrutinized most of the time, in a positive way, of course. Constructive criticism comes all the time.
Yep. And
you have to prove what you've done. So whether it's a meta-analysis, a study that that has been conducted in previous training, whatever it might be, you have to prove that this is the way to go, and you believe why you believe that to be the case. You can't just go in there and say, right, I believe that we're going to do 10 burpees today. And not have a reason for that.
Okay.
What energy system are you using? Why are you using it? How is that related to their sport?
I see.
Whereas when we're doing like a one-on-one training, I'd like to think that we would be doing that and be accountable for it. But in a lot of the commercial scene, it's just an image, just a way of saying, we can be different by saying just eat meat for the whole year, or just have 2 eggs a day and you'll be fine. Whatever it is, you can see it and no one's held accountable for it. There's no regulation in it.
Okay. So you would, is it almost a case of, the way I see it is with when you're working with kind of high performance athletes, it's a full-time thing that requires almost a lot more application, and so there requires that more structure and, like you say, that kind of that scrutiny. Whereas with the everyday person, there's the ability to change it based on what their needs are on that certain week or on that certain day. Is that kind of where you're going with it?
No, I mean, there's so much more to it too. So for example, 4 years, it would be, let's just say Olympics. I say 4 years because the Olympics is usually a program would begin 8 years before with somebody, sometimes 4. So you would be planning it out that far in advance.
Okay.
And it takes a long time. It's in a program called periodization. And periodization is just basically making sure that the body adapts to the training stimulus at the time. And then also to make sure that you're peaking for the right competitions and performance, which is quite hard to get right. When you're doing one-on-one training in that kind of commercial scene, if we can call it that, it's kind of, you have a structure, and for us at BrettdaBeast, I'd like to think that we stick to that structure, but most people would just be training random stuff on each day, right? They might have like a bodybuilders will have a bodybuilder program,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
Pilates people will just do the Pilates, and that's it. But there's no periodization. There's no planning to the extent
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
in that much detail.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's just basically that kind of 1 hour, you come in, you sweat, you leave,
Yeah.
with minimal goals implemented, really.
Yeah. Because I've found almost for myself since starting here, I had the kind of the strength and conditioning mindset of when I worked with myself, I'd try and set up more of a periodized plan. I'd have sort of heavy weeks, deload weeks, and what have you. But since coming here, there's almost I'm required to be a lot more flexible. I can't. It's not one size fits all with every single every single class.
Right. Okay. So if we have a periodization with sports science, and then here we try the periodization, there have to be a lot more adaptability, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because people will come in and be like, oh, not feeling good today, or don't really want to work hard today. Very rarely you're going to get an athlete who's not motivated to be better.
Yeah.
It's a different mentality.
Yeah.
They've got a lot more at stake. It's a full-time job. Whereas people that might be tired after work, it's just a lot more difficult to be as committed as an athlete. So that's one reason why we'll probably have to adapt it a lot more. But we do tend to stick to a program.
Yeah, for sure.
So for example, constantly setting short-term and long-term goals like we would with the athletes. So I would like to think that we've translated a lot of that stuff that we did with professional sports teams over to the private sector here. And I think that's why we've captured a niche market. People who have seen that that's the best, and I think that our clientele kind of demonstrates that.
Okay. So my next question is it may seem very, very obvious, but simply, is progress linear?
No, progress, it doesn't go in a line like that. Always, you could look at a graph and it'll ideally be like, let's just say 4 to 8 weeks like this, and then you would have a little bit of a drop right there, deliberately actually. You would try to do that less intensity or less volume, so that you could have a super compensation effect.
I see.
That comes up. So the reason for that is the body isn't allowed to rest if you're going completely hammer and tongs for that 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But if you have like a 5 or 6 week D volume or D intensity, less intensity, and you'll find that week drops in your performance. But then when you come back the next week, it will go up more. So it'll be like that.
Yeah.
Ideally,
Yeah.
that's how it would be.
I see.
Never like that,
not-
because inevitably, if you kept going hammer and tongs and you didn't have the necessary deloading period or rest period that you need, then it would go like this. It would plateau.
Plateau. Yeah.
And it might go a little bit, but it will be very wavy. Yeah.
Okay. And so then, I guess with the clients that we work with here, what are the kind of the biggest mitigating factors that come to impacting their progress?
Impacting their progress in a positive way?
It could be positive, it could be negative. What can help their progress, or what could hinder their progress?
Well, I think we serve a major role there, right, in making sure that we keep them motivated by showing them the progress. I would like to think that every 8 to 12 weeks we're really showing them not just a scale, showing them the body fat percentage, showing them the muscle that's gone up, showing them how their agility's improved through testing, showing them the strength, power, endurance, all of these fitness components have gone up over time. So that is the motivating factor, I think, that why people keep coming back here. Also, determination from the person. Some people come in and because they've hired a trainer, they assume that the results will come there. And obviously that doesn't work. So generally speaking, you don't see them for longer than 3 months. They're gone, and then they probably go on to other remedies, like I don't know, what's the injection that they have now? Ozempic and all these kind of things, or whatever it is, a slim up center where they're just basically taking water loss and calling it fat loss. All these kind of scams that you see around the world, and there's so many of them. It's hard to actually mention them all in like a day's talk.
Right? For sure.
So that kind of thing hinders progress, and I think if you're going to summarize that quickly, it would be the desire for a quick fix. smart people know, emotionally intelligent people know that you need to take time in order to get the result that you want, just like in finance. You don't make $1 million, well, you can win Tats Lotto or Lotto, but generally speaking, the smart people have made their money over 30, 40-year period,
builds up over
compounded interest. No different in fitness. You can't just be like, I'm going to lose this in 1 kilo, in 1 month. You might be able to get that weight, but inevitably you're going to start eating and your lifestyle is going to be completely back to normal before. Put on that weight. Looking long term, you can do little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. It doesn't hinder your lifestyle so much. It becomes part of your lifestyle, and people would tend to stick to it a lot more.
What I find interesting with the concept, I guess it's like the more the psychology side, is that I find that, so we had the Under Armour Combine in November, and for my own training, what I really enjoyed was having that thing to train for, and having that kind of that target set out. There's that like that short term, right? We've got this coming up. I've got 8 weeks trained towards that. But then once that finished, it was never the mindset of like, okay, well I've trained for that, job done. Don't need to train anymore. And I find myself kind of looking for that next goal. What interests me is when you work with some people is they've got that initial goal where it's like I want to lose 1 kilo in a month, let's say, and it's like, okay, they've lost that, then what are they going to do to maintain that, or what's then the kind of the next goal, in a way, you know? Whereas it's a lot of the time it's they're looking at that short term, that quick fix, as you say, you know. So what I've found interesting is almost setting up almost a long-term framework for people, you know, like having a couple of people that you work with, and it's almost you're giving them the tools, you're giving them the foundation to live that kind of that healthy lifestyle, not just in here. There's only so much we can do in an hour session here, and they come 3-4 times a week, right? But it's like that's 4 hours out of however many hours in a week. You know, it's more so kind of giving them the framework of what they're going to do outside of that. You know, how many steps are they getting in? What's their sleeping pattern like? You know, what do they do over the weekend? Are they mad on the bevy, or are they a bit more subdued?
So like, again, you can look at the common denominator, and when someone walks in there, what's their priority in life? Not just in here. What's their priority in their everyday life? So some will say money, some will say it's family, some will say it's their business or their friends. Some will say health. I believe that health is the more important thing, and if people prioritize it, it makes everything else a lot easier, right? So most of the time people struggle to come in because they're prioritizing something other than their health. Now, that's fine. I mean, that's their prerogative. But what is money without health? What is, how can you help your family when you're sick? Right? You actually become a bit of a burden, actually.
Yeah.
So you don't take money into the grave, right? You have to use it up, and that is not really why we're here. So I think that when people first come in, generally they might have a goal of, I want to look like this person. I want to look like Madonna when she was in her 20s. I want to look like Jennifer Lopez, her butt. And we hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But maybe you start to see when they actually get to 3 months, 4 months, and they stop for a week or they go on a holiday, they become, it didn't feel good. And then the workout's a lot easier for a lifetime over the long term. So I find that having that priority as health eventually becomes a lifelong workout and healthy lifestyle. Definitely with the clients that I've had the last 30 years.
That's interesting. Because there's a saying I've seen before, and it's a lot of the time when it comes to almost relationships or being part of a collective, there's almost people look to the collective or look to that other person to be better.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm with you because it makes me better, but it's almost the reverse of that is I'm gonna be better for you in a way. So then you're able to give more then you're taken away from that whether it's a relationship, a friendship, your friends, your family, even in business, if you're in like a strong state, whether it's mental or physical, you'll be able to provide more, you'll be able to give more than take away. And so therefore, I believe that the collective therefore becomes stronger. That's how I've always seen my sort of health and my well-being, is similar to what you said. Like when I've got kids, I don't want to be like, and they want to play with me, I don't want to be like, oh no, sorry, dad's back's playing up today. He can't pick you up, he can't play with you because I didn't put the work in.
That's right.
Beforehand, right? And so then that's going to impact my relationship with them, and it's going to make it less beneficial for everybody, right?
Right. I just don't see how a priority can be higher than your health, right? I mean, obviously we get sick, things happen, sometimes we don't have a choice in the matter, but generally speaking, you can prevent a lot of the stuff that we're seeing kill people throughout or inhibit people's lifestyles throughout the US and Australia and England especially. I mean, the obesity epidemic is massive. Diabetes, smoking, alcohol, drugs. It's just like inactivity in itself is a disease.
For sure,
So, we're biased because we've been living it our whole lifestyle, but I just, if I look at the whole picture, that for me is the number one reason why I do my workouts. But I completely understand if your priority is to look better, and I just hope that it will end up being about health at some point.
As far as kind of health and well-being is concerned, it's, we always talk about in things like the factors that you can control. Realistically, like your health and your well-being is one of, if not the only factor of life that you can control. Like how many steps you're getting in, what food you're intaking, what substances you're taking. Those are all the things within your control. And I believe that, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of external factors and what have you, but I believe if you can take care of that, then you've already given yourself a strong base to build upon, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's a thing. I'll never forget the first question you asked me when I applied to work here was, you asked me, do you exercise yourself? Do you work out yourself? Because if it was a thing, imagine if I turned around and said no. That initial sort of thought of like, okay, so this guy wants to be a trainer, but he doesn't look after himself. He wants to teach other people to look after.
You wouldn't have another thought. I would have hung up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. It's.
You'd be amazed how many trainers there are that don't work out, though.
Really?
Oh, that's loads.
That's wild to me.
It's a load. Yeah.
Okay.
Completely.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting because I think that as far as sort of factors within your own individual control is concerned, it's the one thing to me that it's like, okay, so these are my not necessarily non-negotiables, but these are the things that I'm going to stick to throughout the week and throughout my lifetime that I want to keep myself healthy. Because everything else is like, if you're, whether it's job security, family security, whether the world or political state is not in a good way, it's like you cannot control that. You can't control that. Whereas whether you get your 10,000 steps in, you can have more of a say on that,
I think Jordan Peterson once was talking about this, is to get your own health in order before you start to change the world, right? And I think he's got a massive point to that. I mean, his description was make your bed before you get out and sort things for everybody else. And I reckon that mentally and physically, so I think physical health does lead to a better mental health. Not the be all or end all, but definitely helps a lot. So I think if you can start with baby steps there towards improving your life in general, especially for people who are struggling a little bit, have a bit of depression here and there, and their life isn't going quite the way they like it. If you can just get one step in front of the other, push out 5,000 steps here and there, a couple of push-ups, a couple of sit-ups, and then before you know it, 4 weeks down the line, things change.
Yeah,
things change
easier,
better for you. And not just physically. Your presence when you walk into a room. I really do believe that it has this aura about you when you actually are a stronger person.
I think it garners more respect in a way, doesn't it? Because I've been there. Like when I was kind of early 20s, I was a lot sort of skinnier, and I'd feel like I'd almost have to sort of hide myself in a way. I'd always wear a hoodie. I'd tuck my hands in a hoodie, slouch my shoulders over. Whereas now it's like I feel there's more confidence there because it's like I feel more physically capable. So it's like you walk into a room and it's like, okay, I feel confident that whatever situation there is, it can be handled because I've got at least my physical capabilities to do it, you know. So yeah, I think from my own perspective and my own experience, it plays a massive role. It does play a massive role. Going back to sort of working with individuals here, when a new client comes in, what are the sort of the main things you look to understand about them right from the get-go?
Yeah, probably one of the frustrating parts of going to a hospital is that very rarely do doctors have the time to actually check what is going on in your life, right? It's just symptom, bang, generalized, this is what we need to do.
I see.
But there's more to it than that, and there always is, and I get it. I mean, time during the day and seeing a number of clients, but in here, I'd like, really try to emphasize finding out about them. So on our forms, we don't just have a tick box, this is what you do, this is the program you get. We really try and find out about, from the whole week, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So you wake up what time? What time are you going to sleep? So you could really see their sleep patterns.
Yep.
What time are you having breakfast? Are you having 3 meals a day, 1 meal a day? Do you snack a lot? Then we could talk about the diet and that. How many workouts are you getting in a week? Give me a look at your smartwatch, please, so we can check out how many steps you're active during the day. Is your job a desktop job? Are you actually physically walking around during your job? And that all adds up to the goals that we're looking at. What do you enjoy doing, right? And another important part is how much time do you have realistically? Not because we tell you to, but realistically, how much time do you think you have to dedicate to a workout a week? And then we go from there.
Yeah.
That number, we go from there as opposed to saying, you start with 5.
Yeah.
Because that's just a sales pitch.
Yeah.
So I would rather have someone start once and then increase it than someone comes in 5 days a week for a month and you don't see him again after that.
True. Yeah.
It's basic stuff, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. It's you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know the outcome when someone starts doing that straight up. Yeah. It all gets back to that quick fix, right?
Yeah.
I want it and I want it now.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of knowing where they're at in their life, so then we can give them the framework to build that longevity that they need. Yeah. Okay. And last question: what does the future look like in 5 years' time for BrettdaBeast and BrettdaBeast?
Well, maybe we'll be doing a podcast like this quite permanently. Maybe the whole thing is built up like a Joe Rogan BrettdaBeast podcast. I would like to do that. I would like to dive into fitness because it's always been my life. I think I can offer people some nice advice in the public, but also I understand that sometimes this kind of advice can be boring, right? I mean, people like to hear fancy new ways, and there's no new ways. It's just you have to work hard and you have to eat less. I mean, if you want to look at it in terms of weight loss, weight gain. I would like to think that we're still continuing on. I mean, before lockdowns, we were looking at expanding quite a lot, like to Phuket and Hua Hin. Wow. At the moment, I'm kind of happy with the way things are going. It suits my health a lot more. Got yourself coming on board. We've got a couple of good trainers who are strength coaches who are doing well, getting better. But yeah, if that keeps getting more popular, if these coaches keep getting more popular, then you can really branch out from there. But I don't want to put too much pressure on myself for the sake of my health and my family. That's my health and family is the priorities right now, to actually just keep that right, and then let the work kind of go around that. Maybe, like I said, maybe a podcast in the future as well.
Yeah, we'll get a dual camera set up, big microphones hanging down.
Absolutely.
Not just a phone and some clip-on mics. But
that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
No worries.
Thank you to those of you that watched. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, follow BrettdaBeast on Instagram or BrettdaBeast on Instagram, and Train More is myself on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Thank you again.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.